put up with and keep going to court, being arrested and continuing, is something many others also face. In fact, I've been following closely what's going on with this young leader, Bobi Wine. I feel for him and his family, Barbara, his wife, and his children. I hope to God they will not suffer what we have suffered. I think it's not fair for a young person to present himself to lead and then have to experience what we have experienced. My son is outside Uganda not because I wanted that, but our lives changed dramatically that day he declared, that Saturday, because he was branded by President Museveni a traitor. He threatened to put him 6 feet under. Those were his words, 6 feet under. And from then on, Kizza Besigye has lived as a hunted man, hounded. He was followed everywhere. He was arrested so many times. He even broke the Guinness Book of Records 1 year for being the most arrested man in the world, because he wouldn't be allowed to move. He was humiliated. He was beaten. He fled into exile. Those elections were probably the worst elections Uganda has ever had. We lost friends, we lost colleagues, others left for exile. He came back from exile 2005. He was arrested, brought before the court-martial. Before the court-martial, he was accused of, hey, the worst crimes that you can put together: treason, terrorism, illegal possession of guns, and as if that was not enough, rape. We fought by his side, and the cases were then transferred to the civilian court, because we argued that Besigye was a civilian and should answer his cases in the civilian court. The constitutional court agreed with us. And before the civilian courts, all the cases were dismissed. He was proved innocent. We believe in the judiciary. We know it has its challenges too, but time and time again, Kano Besigye has found justice in that, shall I call it, nearly broken system. But still, 2006 elections, he saw the worst of the excesses of this government. He was constantly followed, he was beaten, he was thrown out of places, he was humiliated. He stood his ground, the elections ended. Come 2011, another election. Here, the abuse was so much that we had to evacuate him to hospital in Nairobi. He was blinded, tear gas thrown in his eyes, thrown on a pickup truck. He had injuries that he still lives with. Just last month, he had surgery on his hand because his hand was maimed from those rubber bullets and that were fired at him at close range. I'm not saying this to seek sympathy for Kano Besigye. He does not ask for sympathy. Kano Besigye continues to ask for justice because he's innocent. He has been framed time and time again. And before the courts of Uganda, he has been exonerated. And guess what? Those who framed him, those who went and created those allegations, false allegations, were promoted. So in the system, there is a reward for those who break the law, who frame others. That is the situation he lives in. Today, he is framed again. He's before the court-martial, again a civilian brought before the court-martial. I'm not going to discuss anything about the charges that have been laid there, but I believe in his innocence. And I believe that he will be found innocent before a civilian court. Let me say something very directly to President Museveni. You were our leader. You led us to fight for justice. We shared a vision. People, young people, risked their lives, followed you. We were among them. Along the road, we disagreed with you. Many people along the road have disagreed with you. It's not a crime to disagree with you. Listen, you have won a war. You led us and we won a war. But you can't always use the means of war to win on everything else. Time and again, I have seen you use the military way, the forceful way, to find solutions to different problems. It's too tempting when you've won using one method to continue applying it in everything else. When you declared UPE a good policy, a policy that was going to give opportunity to every child to start school, I supported you on that. But when it was having challenges, as everything, when everything is starting, there are challenges, something ambitious, like all kids can go to school. What was the solution you sought? You brought in the army to sort out the school system. You pushed for more exports, diversification of exports from Uganda, and the fish sector started to bloom. You brought companies who started exporting fish. Uganda's income was growing. But when it had challenges of overfishing on the lake, would you bring in to solve that? The army again. You brought a policy of NADS to empower farmers, peasant farmers, to grow better crops, have better yields, and earn more income. Great. When it was having challenges, who do you bring in? The army to sort out the problems in agriculture. Elections. The army intervened in elections. Did they help? No, they didn't. They made it worse. So I ask you with greatest respect, President Museveni, seek the way of peace. Listen, discuss, reach agreements, even with those you don't agree with. There is no one truth. There's no one truth. There are many good opinions everywhere, and you can find solutions in peaceful ways. It doesn't always have to be through forceful means. Many NRM leaders have left, including myself. Many of us left not because we are bad people or because we became bad and against our country. We love our country. We left because there was no room for discussion and agreement. So I say to you, President Museveni, the peaceful way is the better way. Colonel Kizza Besigye is a good man like yourself, like other Ugandans. He's a man who loves his family, loves his community. He cares deeply for Ugandans, for justice, like you. He does not mean harm. Take a moment to ask yourself, how did we get here? 25 years ago, we were all in one movement, pushing in one direction. How did we get here? Choose to reflect instead of listening to people who are working to get a reward for delivering a man who has been hounded for 25 years. Too many people in the security system are seeking a reward to hand him to you on a silver plate. Will you take that? No. Seek the better way. Seek the way that will bring peace to Uganda, and not the way, as always, of forcing, of violence, of eliminating, of annihilation. That is not the way. I want to say also to people who support President Museveni, you're good people too, particularly people from my community, people from Ankole. Many of you support him because you believe he's right. Others support him because he is their man, he's from their area. All that is okay. But keep in mind that there are millions of other Ugandans who today feel deep exclusion, inequality, injustice. They too are Ugandans with a right in this country as everybody else. So let this issue that's going to become big national issue that will traumatize many families, many people, divide people, let this issue not be seen through a lens of, am I gaining, am I not gaining, is he my leader, is he not my leader? Let's focus on justice, let's focus on what will bring peace to our country. I call this press conference to deal with the issue most pressing to me, which is justice for Kizza Besigye and Haj Obed Mulengera. I didn't call this to talk about myself, but since you have asked me about myself, let me tell you this. You said something I'll pick on. You said, can you contest for this big seat? To me, it is not a seat, it is a role. It is an awful task to lead this country, to put people back to trust the leadership. There's deep mistrust in this country, deep divisions amongst people, those who are in and those who are out, those who feel it's just, those who feel injustice. There's so much to do to lift people from poverty. Those who are at the bottom are sinking further. A few at the top are taking off. There are deep problems here of the loss of our natural resources. Forests are depleted, rivers are drying, swamps are drained, land is losing value, fragmented, young people are not employed, they've got papers but no hope for a future. All these challenges are there. So when you describe the role of leading this country as a seat, you make me think that Ugandans continue to think feudally. They think of the reign of a king, so it is a seat. It's not a seat. It's a very challenging job. It is actually a painful job if you're doing it honestly and with care and with passion. It is a job that of course I can do. Why can't I do it? I'm capable. But I'm not looking at that. Right now, I'm seeking justice for this man, my husband, who has 25 years suffered abuse at the hands of the security system, suffered humiliation, suffered torture, exile, and now before a court-martial, framed again. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm at this meeting. is a platform where all the governments of the world come to solve global problems. They set global rules and they monitor the implementation of those global norms. The United Nations doesn't interfere in the political affairs of a country. So even me, as I'm sitting here, I am not here to speak for the United Nations. I'm speaking as WINNIE BYANYIMA, the wife of Kizza Besigye. But the United Nations can play some role in helping countries where politics degenerates into conflict, into war. It helps. It has institutions, it has instruments to help resolve, not only to prevent conflict, to mediate in conflict, and to resolve conflicts. These countries' politics are fragile and are very violent. The United Nations can offer supports of different kinds to help a country like this one. Indeed, it would be good for President Museveni to use the offices of the United Nations to find a broad consensus with the opposition, with other actors from civil society on a way forward for this country, on how to bring us back to a democratic path. The United Nations can offer support in different ways, but it cannot intervene to tell leaders what to do or not to do. But it offers its offices of prevention, of mediation, of conflict resolution to a country that is willing to use those offices.
That's for me.
My friend, I think what keeps Kizza Besigye going all these years, from when he started to question where the national resistance movement was leading to, is that he believes he's one actor in a struggle that should belong to all Ugandans. It's up to every leader to take their stand. And I think if more leaders took an honest stand, not a selfish one, not a stand out of fear, not a stand out of selfish interest, we could take this country forward. Besigye is doing what he has to do for as a single individual, staking and trying to get the country to a democratic path, a path of peace and the rule of law. But every other leader must play their part too. And they don't have to be political leaders, it's religious leaders, it is community leaders, it is young people. At this moment, I think you're asking the right question. Let everyone rise and do their bit. No, I have not contacted Kenya authorities because, first of all, Besigye is not in Kenya. He's right here. Yes, he was abducted from Kenya, but I have it very, very reliably that the people who abducted him were Ugandan security. No question about that. The people who drove him in the night together with Mulengera into Uganda were Ugandan security operatives. So I have nothing to ask the government of Kenya. They manage their country as they want. I am asking for justice for Kizza Besigye here in Uganda. He was abducted and brought here and imprisoned and dragged before a military court. All that is illegal and wrong. And I am asking the leaders of this country to reflect and understand that that is not a path that will lead Uganda to peace. That's not a path that will lead Uganda to lift its people out of poverty. No, that's a violent path. That's a path of destruction, of silencing people you don't agree with. It's not a good way. There's a guy there. I would want to. If I had a chance, I would want to sit down with him and reason with him. Yeah. I think that one thing that has happened is that fewer and fewer people are plucking up enough courage to reason with him, to present other solutions to him. I would be happy to sit down with him and reason with him.
What might be stopping you to go ahead to talk to him?
Can you go and talk to him?
Since you're at a high caliber, maybe you have contacts to talk, and since you are once in the same movement system, maybe you still...
I am one of 45 million Ugandans, and I don't have immediate access to him. But if I get it, I will use it.
Think you're done?
You've touched my heart. Thank you for asking that question, because it's true that this is a very difficult moment for our family, and I'm sure I haven't yet contacted Haj Obed Kamlegea's family. I'm going to look for them today. I'm sure it's also very, very tough for them. We have a son who is 25 and is a student in the United States. I've been talking to him every day. He is very, very stressed, let me put it that way. He's very anxious. He's finding it hard to focus on his studies. And last night he asked me, he says, Mom, I'm feeling homeless. Can I call Uganda home? Should I come home for Christmas? I want to come. But he's really, really very, very upset and emotionally troubled. I'm sure that Haj Obed Kamlegea's children are feeling like that too. I'm sure that the children of so many other political prisoners are feeling like that too. So I understand the feeling of especially our children. And I speak to every Ugandan that what Kano Besigye is facing and what he's ready to put up with and keep going to court, being arrested and continuing is something many others also face. In fact, I've been following closely what's going on with this young leader, Bobi Wine. I feel for him and his family, Barbara, his wife and his children. I hope to God they will not suffer what we have suffered. I think it's not fair for a young person to present himself to lead and then have to experience what we have experienced. My son is outside Uganda not because I wanted that, but when he was 3 years old, I took him with me to South Africa and went to see a doctor because he had symptoms I couldn't understand. And the doctor diagnosed trauma of a 3.5-year-old. It is the single most important reason why I resigned my seat of Mbarara municipality and went to work abroad. I couldn't lose my son to the impact of the political violence here. I went away to give him a chance to grow up as a normal kid. And I left a job I enjoyed so much to represent the people of Mbarara municipality. So yes, in a long way, this kind of experience, I don't wish it for anybody at all. But I know many, many families go through this. The young people who get picked up when they go to demonstrate, the campaigners in on the opposition who get picked up, all suffer so much, and I know what they go through, and I wish it was not happening. I wish we were a more peaceful country, like some of the peaceful countries around us. You know, most countries don't go through this, but this is so normalized here. The political bullying, the bullying of the political opposition, the violence, violent ways of dealing with those who differ. This is not true in the rest of Africa. All around us, there's more peace. Look at Kenya. They disagree, they can have an eruption here and here, but by and large, they are a peaceful country. Look at Tanzania. Look at South Africa. Look at Zambia. Look at Malawi. In some of these countries, even elections happen and they don't make headlines because there's no drama, you see. So we are a special country that has not achieved peace. I wish peace for our country.
He asked about how he found the prisoners.
The prisoners, thank you. I found Kano Besigye and Haj Obed Mulengera in good spirits. They are strong, but obviously they are prisoners and they are anxious about appearing before a military court. Haj Obed Mulengera told me that I don't understand why I'm before a military court. I've had nothing ever to do with the military. I don't even go to police stations. I have never even been a Boy Scout when I was a kid. Says, I find it all so strange to appear before a military court. Of course, he was laughing about it, but deep down, he's anxious. He fails to understand why he has to appear before a military court. So they are in good spirits, but they are definitely worried about an injustice that's about to happen before a military court.
As we head into 2026, because we are heading into, 2026 is an election year.
Yeah.
Do you think all what is happening is because of looking at Dr. Besigye as trying to come back into politics, or is there a fear that he might stand in 2026 for presidency?
I am not in the minds of his tormentors, those who have framed him, but he has been a political actor and remains one. Something that has bothered me is that anyone who steps up to challenge President Museveni is seen as a traitor, as wanting, not wishing well for the country. It's so wrong. We must start on the basis that everyone who wants to lead Uganda is doing it in good faith, unless you find that they are doing something criminal. So for me, Kano Besigye or Bobi Wine or General Muntu, to me, they are all good people who have competence of different levels and who want to lead Uganda. And that's how we should see them. But this idea that whoever is going to challenge you is evil, is meaning to do harm, is undemocratic and is unfair and doesn't lead to good results.